they're not live yet.
Alright, we're live.
Are we live?
We are live.
Are we live? Do we give it a minute for people to
Yeah, just start
get
talking
logged on?
and doing your thing.
Alright. I was looking up the year that these things went in Florida. 1950s.
It's been that long. Wow. Alright, we're up to 17 people.
I am frozen.
I have this effect on people.
Alright, 36 people with starting, so...
Tell me when to go.
Up to about 51. We'll give it another minute or two. So, anyone just tuning in, Shawn is going to go and tie a bunch of Peacock Bass Flies tonight, and then he said he was going to fly me down for free and take me Peacock Bass fishing with him. So, he can tie as long as he wants to if he's going to do that.
I will fly him for free, but he'll have to ride Spirit Airlines. But we'll do it. All right, so I think we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, we're up to like 53 people.
So this is how you dress when you go to Florida and fish for peacocks.
So why don't we start off with their incentive to share tonight?
All right. So for the first 100 shares, Gunslinger Fly Fishing is going to give away this epoxy and hardwood baseboard. This one is walnut and
maple.
Maple, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It has a blue epoxy in it, and so we're going to give that away for the first 100 shares.
Yeah, so we get to 100 shares, and that custom Nor-vise base is given away. And that's, I believe you said, $120 base?
Yeah, retail. Yeah.
Retail will be $120
it's
base.
It's like a prototype one. So we're gonna give that away.
Every 50 shares, we're still giving away Nor-vise Net Gator, which Shawn's rocking right now, and we're still giving away a pair of stripping guards. So share it all over the place, and every time you share is a chance to win that Nor-vise base.
All right. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Tim won't let me smoke my cigar down here. He said his wife will yell at him. We're on location here in Hockessin, Delaware, home of Nor-vise World Headquarters and President Joe Biden. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is peacock bass. Peacock bass are not native to South Florida, but they do occur throughout the Caribbean, South America, Puerto Rico.
Shawn, how the hell did you get the captain's chair?
So I have fished for peacocks both in Puerto Rico and South Florida, and they get, you can commonly catch them to 5 and 6 pounds in both of those places. Where they are basically from West Palm south in freshwater in Florida. If you kind of draw a line east to west over to like Naples, and then south they occur along the Tamiami Trail, headed in towards Miami. And basically any body of water south of West Palm, from West Palm south, you're gonna find you have a good chance of finding these things. The reason that you want to go fish for them is because they fight like 3 smallmouth tied together. They exist in shallow water, clear water. You can sight fish for them. They actively protect their nests, and they spawn about 3 times a year. So you can walk along and you can sight fish for them, or you can blind cast, depending on kind of what's going on at the moment. They will push the deeper water given a cold front, but even over Christmas when I was in Florida, we went out and we still had some like 20 fish days, and it was pretty cold. We were down there. It was basically cold fronts the whole time we were there. All right, so I'm going to tell you about some books you might want to buy and some books that you shouldn't bother buying.
Hey, ask everybody if they can see and hear you. Okay?
Yeah, can everybody see and hear me? Okay.
It sounds like
let Tyler
know.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so
Miller says hi. Will shared it by sending it in a message to me. I'm like,
Yeah,
Will, I don't think that counts.
I know. She did the
So-
same thing to me.
so I'm gonna-
shared a message to me too.
I'm going to talk about some books here real quick. So this is a Fly Fisher's Guide to Freshwater Florida. Don't buy it. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. This is Fly Fisher's Guide to the Florida Keys. Don't buy it. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. This is Saltwater, Florida.
I'll give you $10.
Saltwater, Florida. Fly Fisher's Guide. Don't buy it. It's not worth it. I'm going to keep it PG-13. It's not worth the stinking paper it's printed on. All right, this is the book you need. John McMinn, my good friend and fishing buddy from here in Delaware, expert fly fisherman, he told me about this book. He actually fished. This guy's retired now, Steve Cantner. John McMinn actually fished with this guide. Was known as the onshore guide or the foot guide in Florida, and he wrote this book, and it's about fishing on, on foot, not in a boat. Well, what's great about this book that isn't in those other books that are junk is that this book tells you where all the boat ramps are, and that's what you need when you're, hauling around a canoe or a kayak or a boat. You want to know where the boat ramps are and where to park. And so he covers all that right in this book really well. This book I think retails for $30. You could probably get it cheaper right on Amazon. I mean, this is the book you need. It's Steve Cantner, Ultimate Guide to Fishing South Florida on Foot. And it's not specifically about peacock bass fishing. He does cover saltwater in here too, but basically the approach, tactics, and where to go, it's all in there. So this is the book that I would advise that you get.
So you're not going to throw that one, is what
I'm not going to throw that one. Nope. Those other ones are in my collection, but only for
because you bought them and you're
to
not
loan to
throwing them.
people who bother me. So fishing access. So they're basically Florida isn't like where I live here in Delaware, right? So if I stop at a random pond here in Delaware behind Walmart or something like that, like I'm probably going to get run off, right? But if I go behind the food line and try and go fishing in the retention pond, I'm probably going to get run off. In Florida,
what was the author's name for that book?
that is Steve Cantner, and I'll give it to Tyler.
Yeah.
I'll give it to Tyler. In Florida, everyone fishes, right? And so they're much more liberal about access there. And so the rule of thumb is in Florida, unless someone specifically tells you not to park there, you can't fish there, you can probably fish there and no one's going to give you a hard time. You can probably pull up over the curb and park on the grass, and no one's going to give you a hard time. It's pretty legit there. And don't be afraid to, I keep my car in sight, right, when I'm doing that, but don't be afraid to kind of try some water, even though it kind of doesn't look like much, because it probably holds fish and it probably holds good fish. Guides. So before I ever hired a guide, I had fished several times, over a few years in Florida and in South Florida for these things, and then I was on a rush trip down there, so I'm going to get a guide, so there's a couple guides I would recommend. Justin Nguyen, spelled like Nguyen, right? Nguyen. I'll post his card up at the end. Hai Trung is another one. He actually guides a lot on foot. I caught a lot of species. I'm a species guy. I like to catch tie for and target specific species of fish. One that I got this in 2020 when I got home from my deployment was the Oscar, and I had been after the Oscar for several years, before I actually got one. Ethan and I hauled my 12-foot John boat down there. We were running the canals, and I caught a really nice Oscar, and Tyler will be putting a picture up in a second here. So I'm going to have Tyler pull up those pictures. I'm just going to talk real quick through these pictures, and then we're going to get into tie-in here.
So we've got a question. Will these flies work for small and largemouth bass?
Yes, they will. Yep.
So.
These flies are simple that I'm going to tie, and what I'm about to show you is they're going to work for multiple species. So what you're seeing here is Captain Justin Nguyen giving a thumbs up, and that is my largest peacock bass to date. And the reason that Kyle Johnson, my good friend who lives in Colorado, went with the guide was so that I didn't have to run the boat and we could both fish. And we had a great day. And he's a wonderful guide. He was actually a steelhead guide in Indiana for many years, and he left Indiana, and him and his wife migrated down to Florida, and he's guiding in South Miami now. Really wonderful guy. And then that middle picture, the you can see it. If you look at that picture, you can see the reel underneath of that fish. That's Hatch's new iconic reel that is launching here in a month or two. Their Gen 2 Fanatic is no longer going to be produced, and that iconic reel, you can see that's in a All-American red, white, and blue theme that they sent me. It's a fantastic reel. That one's a 7+, which is a little heavy for these guys. Kyle in the picture holding his fish vertically. That's my 5+, which is a more appropriate size reel for those fish. But I wanted to try that reel out, and it was awesome.
What weight rods are you using for
So
these fish?
yeah, so we're using. You could use a 5 weight. You could use a 9 weight. If you use a 5 weight, you're going to have to fight that fish a lot longer. I kind of just go with the 7. I like 7 weights. It's come to be my favorite weight of rod. I can carry less rods when I go on a trip. If I could bring the 7 a lot. I usually don't. If I'm not, unless I'm trout fishing, it'll be the 7 weight and then a couple bigger rods. So this next picture, you can see my son Ethan there, and you can see that fly he's taking out of fish's mouth is the Estes fly that we're gonna tie tonight, and that's on land. You can see that. What you can't see in that picture is that behind that water right there is like 6 lanes of city traffic, with a guardrail and stoplights, and you're at this spot's near a hospital, and so there's like constant sirens and stuff like that, and so it's very urban there, and much of the places that you find these fish, and so you have to be aware of that kind of when you're fishing there. And you can see in the picture of me, you can see that fish. These fish range depending on the clarity of the water. The more clear the water, the lighter the bottom, the lighter the fish are. The darker the bottom, the darker the water. You're going to see the kind of those green back with the big heavy black stripes fish, and they range from a banana color all the way to almost like dark green where you can't even see the patterns on them. So they're really awesome, beautiful apex predators. So
You want to go to the rest of the pictures?
yeah. So go to the next one. So this is kind of cool. This is a lot of the kind of bycatch that you get when you're fishing for peacocks. You can see Ethan in that top left. That's a pretty, it's like a 3-pound canal bass. You can kind of see, I think, behind him, you can kind of see the traffic, the guardrail and the street there behind him, and these retention water control ditches are just along every road in Miami. And then you see the next picture of Ethan. He's holding a Mayan cichlid, and so we're going to tie a fly that mimics the Mayan cichlid tonight. And Mayans and Midas cichlid are nest raiders, and these peacocks, they just hate them because they're very protective of their nests, just like a bedding largemouth bass, or even like more so, like kind of like a snakehead protects its brood. These peacocks they want those nest raiders off their nests. They're prolific breeders, and they're really hardy, aggressive fish. And you can see that's a freshwater snook there. We call it peacock bass fishing. And then that's another new species I added last summer when I got back, and that I was hoping was a Florida gar. So I thought the long sought Florida gar. And you can see it has that orange Midas cichlid mimicking Estes fly in its mouth that we're going to tie tonight. You can see it sticking right in the fish's mouth there. That is actually a long-nosed gar. That is not a Florida gar. And the only way that you can tell the difference is by where the mouth hinges under the eye. And I actually had to send this to a biologist to get it diagnosed because I was hoping it was the Florida gar. But anyway. So, and then you can see the rule of thumb with the Mayan cichlids is basically the smaller they are, the lighter they are. You will find them, lighter and just like the peacock, but the baby ones are very vibrant and tropical looking compared to the adults. And then the last picture you see, kind of the bottom right, that's a Oscar, just like they sell at the pet store. And I had fished for that species for a few years and had tussled with a couple and not landed them. And then I caught this one. That picture really doesn't do that fish justice. That was a very big Oscar's dinner plate size, and he got so old he had glaucoma, kind of cloud in his eyes, but that was a really great fish. Okay, Tyler. Okay, and we're back. All right, so this is the first fly we're going to tie. This is the, it's just a Estaz fly like you would use anywhere in the world. Originally I tied it on like a B10S stinger hook with dumbbell eyes and Marabou. And so, but now I'm tying it on actually a Umpqua X Series jig hook, 60-degree jig hook. See that?
Yeah.
And we will. Are we on the
Yeah.
close-up camera now?
Yeah. I'll switch to the close-up camera. You want to take the lay off? That way they can see the
Yep.
fly.
I'll take
Yep.
my. Is my head too shiny for the camera? You think? Do I
No,
need to
'cause
wear
you
my
have a hat on.
no-
No, but
Okay.
you got a compliment. You got a compliment on your leg.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right, so, so this is the fly that tied on the jig hook, like I was just telling you. Just have it in here just so you can see it. It's got heavy. You want to have heavy eyes on it, and there's kind of two ways to fish for these things. You can kind of cast and kind of just strip, or you can go sight fish and you spot the fish and then you just jig. You're gonna just jig that fly right down in front of that fish. And the reason I like these jig hooks is because if you have a little basin of water, it'll stand, or this fly will stand up like that every time.
Ben Cleveland said, "Keep the hat on; it's too bright."
You got it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and tie this thing. This is a really simple fly to tie. If you can tie a Clouser minnow, right, you can tie this. I'm tying on my my purple vise. This is my travel vise. I got this custom base here. This is all cherry and epoxy base. I also have the bamboo base as a travel base, and then I have my my marble base as well. So the first thing we're gonna do is and this thread. This is just I think this is
Just like your regular 6/0 thread.
it's heavy. It's the heavy like would you call it 140, right?
Yeah.
That's the heavier one. Is it 210 or the 140 the stronger one?
210 is stronger.
All right, so this is 210. I like a nice strong thread. Now I'm not going to use any epoxy or any glue tonight, but I would, because these fish are so aggressive and do so much damage, and they have kind of a rough mouth, just like a largemouth, and they will kind of beat the flies up a little bit. So I do use glue and epoxy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and lay down a thread base, Tim O'Neill style here.
Norvise style.
Norvise style.
All right, I'll put my lead eyes on this. I just started using these hooks not too long ago, and it's a little trickier to put these
That thread base all the way up the bend.
on the bend of the hook there. So, but once you do it a couple times, it's not so bad. And then what I do, I turn it over, and then that's when I do my lock in my thread wraps. And now normally, I'm not going to do it on this fly, but normally I would put some of this gorilla glue on there. Can you see that? Yeah, gorilla glue. Okay, but I'm not going to do that on this fly. So all right, I'm going to wrap back to the right before the bend of the hook. I'm going to put a ever so small. Oop! I hit the camera, Tyler. We still good? Put a little bend. Put a little bump. There we go. Put a little bump. Oh goodness. There we go. Technical difficulties. There we go. Put a little bump of thread on there, and I'm gonna put my Marabou. I will tie this with this kind of barred Marabou. Tim is really particular about what type of Marabou he uses. I'm a grunge tire, so I just buy Marabou. I don't pay attention to
Well, when
the
you're
grade.
not palmering it, it's
the
nowhere
grade,
near as big
yeah.
of a deal.
I don't pay attention to that. I keep hitting this camera, Tyler. It's a little too close to the fly, I think.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just gotta be careful, because if I get out too far, they can't see the detail of the fly.
There we go. And I'll just lock that in right back to where the hook starts to bend. And I'll snip that off just like that. Easy peasy. And I'll splay it out there real good. And then I'll go ahead and get a taper on there. Easy peasy. There we go. Now I'm going to put my flash on. When I tie these, I'll vary the amount of flash. And what I have found is the clearer the water, the less flash I like. You know, you gotta kind of. So everyone thinks they're gonna go down to Florida and they're just gonna like bail these fish. It's no problem. You're gonna go down there and have 150, 200 fish days, and those days do happen. But for the most part, you gotta work for these fish. A lot of times it's hot. It's real hot, and the heat's taking a physical toll on you. You know, things like that. You're walking a lot. If you're fishing from land, if you're fishing from a boat, it's not quite so bad. Wrap that back on the other side so it's on both sides of the fly. Oops. There we go. Both sides of the fly. And then what I do, I just kind of, like about a hook's length past. I just kind of snip it off right in there.
Alright guys, we are at 89 shares. We need 11 more before that
I
custom
kinda
Norvise base
trim
gets
that
given
up.
away.
And that's pretty good. I'll just put some insurance wraps on here, as Jack Dennis would say. Some insurance wraps. And then I'm going to put my S-Taz on. So I'll show you I'm going to show you a Tim O'Neill pro tip on that he taught my son Ethan on S-Taz. So this is regular S-Taz, not Palmer S-Taz. I'll be using some of that on the next fly. I'm going to wrap that forward, a little half hitch in. Whoop! Look at that. Boop! There we go. All right, so check this out. See, this house is kind of ratty stuff here, and it's kind of all on one side. So what Tim O'Neill does, and you don't have to use hackle pliers, but I do just because give it weight, is you just spin that, and it'll make that S-Taz a little better. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and wrap that in, and every couple of wraps, I'm just going to brush those fibers back so they lay in backwards.
109 shares.
Not so bad.
New granite base.
Not so
Or new
bad.
epoxy base.
Who is?
I am.
Oh, you shared it, you win.
Not bad. Keep brushing them back, and I like to, when I get up near the eyes, I want it to kind of be a little balky there. And Tyler, did I have you show him the Midas picture?
I will pull that up right now.
So I'm going to show you. Tyler's going to pull up this Midas. So this is the fish that we're mimicking with this fly. It's a Midas cichlid. You see, it has that bump on its head, and they are very prolific in South Florida as well, and they are notorious nest raiders, and peacocks hate them. And so when you find these, when you're looking for peacocks, you'll see 100 of them together. In a big school for protection, because nothing likes them. The peacocks do not like those Midases, and so I'll kind of bulk the head of this thing up, just to kind of look like a baby Midas, just like that. Come around one more time. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tie that off. 3 behind, 3 in front. Just like that. Let's come over in front here. Snip that off. Shoot, Ben Cleveland, how many times did I wrap down that shank? Was it 12 or 13? Should I unwind it all and do it again, Ben? What should I do? Uh-oh, my thread got bound up there. Weird. Didn't want to pull through. 1, 2.
Best show yet. And Ben sent 250 stars, whatever that
I don't know what
I
a
don't know
star
what
is,
that
but
is.
thank you, Ben.
I don't
Thank
know,
you,
but he
Ben.
sent 250 of them, so.
You can add those stars right to my Starbucks account so that I can buy drinks with them.
All right.
And that's it. And so that's your kind of your Midas That's your Midas cichlid, and you know, if you have one long, piece of flash, then you just snip it off. But that's it. That's the guy. That you will do damage. Let's see if I lock my jaw there. So and that's how he'll sit. That's how he'll sit when he's dropping down. And what Ethan will do, and I don't do it as much with Ethan. There's these giant pipes, like, you know, a grown man could stand in one of these pipes and there's usually 2 or 3 of these pipes under each road or kind of access along the side streets. And so what these peacocks do, they'll hide in these pipes. And so Ethan will take a fly like this, and he'll stand on the edge of that pipe, and he'll take his fly, and he'll just jig it up and down. And I've seen him catch some really nice big peacocks like that. And those are not sight fish with it because they're back in that pipe hiding in that shadow, ambushing. And those fish are usually on the feed. And so they're eating.
So apparently the stars are money, and Ben Cleveland has sent you $5.
All right, that's good.
Braden just texted me and
I
told
like
me what
it.
the stars
No,
are.
Ben Cleveland sent Norvise $5.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Bribery will get you everywhere, Ben Cleveland.
So what
All right.
weight are the eyes?
These are, I believe, these are 5/32. Tim, are those 5/32?
I would call those medium lead dumbbell eyes.
Yeah.
So.
So like I said, it's whatever. So I go heavy. Like I said, this is a size 4 hook, so I would match it with a pretty heavy. And now this next one I'm gonna tie
Hold
is
on, I want to do the March Madness.
okay. Well, this is the same fly. I'm just tying it in a different pattern.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
And then
So
the other one kind of takes a longer to tie. So
real quick, everybody that's watching, if you watched the last couple weeks, you know what we're talking about. Facebook has attempted to update, or for lack of a better phrase, screw with their algorithm recently. So if you're watching this, like the post. We'd prefer if you could go and love and do the little heart thing for the post, because it lets us reach more people and it lets us keep bringing this to you every week. Because honestly, our numbers have been cut since Facebook did their thing, and we're trying to go and figure out a way to beat the algorithm. So go ahead, react to this, give us a heart, do everything that you can, share away, and help us reach some more people so we can keep doing this.
So this is a fly, another Estaz fly that I use, and it's kind of a Midas Mayan hybrid. Okay, so with this one,
Elvis said, "Who is this punk?" Shawn who?
Hey, at least I'm not tying live from the Millers. Here we go. So this one I'm going to use the same number 4 X series 60-degree hook, but I'm going to use small black eyes. And this version of this fly, we are going to mimic the Mayan cichlid, which is kind of a purple and black fly.
What hook was that again?
This hook is the Umpqua X series, but you can use any hook, any size 4. I was using a Billy Pate, Eagle Claw straight shank fly hook before, but this one, I like these a lot better because I like the presentation the jig hook gives the fly when it actually hits the bottom. It keeps that hook point up, you don't get snagged as much, and it lets that fish, when it sucks that fly up off the bottom, it's getting the business end of the hook right away. So, alright, so I'm going to lay down my thread base, Tim O'Neill, Nor-vise style. Put my eyes on. And these, like I said, so I'll tie these in a blend of colors. I'll tie different weights depending on, the depth I'm trying to fish at. If I want to, if I'm seeing fish deeper down, I'm going to go with the heavier eye. So this one, like this one that I brought here, it has a small eye. So you just kind of vary that up. And I keep a lot of different stuff in my box. I'll show you my box in a second. I'm going to put these cool black dumbbell eyes on. Like I said, it's a little different tying on this 60-degree hook eye jig hook, but once you do it a couple times, you'll get it.
88 out the gate.
What's that mean?
Shannon comment?
Yeah, when he was laying the thread base down.
What's that mean?
It's a saying that he says all the time.
It's
when he's spinning stuff really fast.
All
we
right,
make
so
fun of all of our southerner friends a
okay.
little bit. And
So,
that's one of the phrases
I'll
we
put a
use.
little bump of thread to hold my dime store, not premium, not Tim O'Neill grade Marabou.
Hey,
And I'm gonna
Fish
go
Hunter
with the.
Marabou is like the same price as Hairline Marabou. They just
So-
have a quality control
All
department.
right, so I'll pick a feather. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like I said, these things are getting torn up. So.
Grant goes, Craigslist brought me here.
So I'll go ahead. I'll tie this in now. Remember this pattern. It's just we're basically tying the same fly but in a different color. But this color is gonna mimic that other food source, which food source and nest raider. That is, I keep hitting that camera, Tyler. That is the Mayan cichlid. I actually was in Belize a few years ago, and I was in on the mangrove side of the island. The leeward side of the island, and I caught a Mayan cichlid where I was catching barracuda in salt water, and it was a little coloration was a little bit different, but I had to stare at the fish. I didn't know what I had caught, and so I went back that night and I had to do research, and Mayan cichlids actually have a very high resiliency rate in salt water, and I had I thought that cichlids were Amazonian freshwater fish, so it was kind of different. It was weird to catch one like that. I thought it was pretty cool.
So you got a question: do the eyes on that side of the hook flip it hook point down?
No, they do not. Now I would say that if you use too light of eyes, it might do that. But with these small and medium lead eyes, I'm not gonna lie. I tested it because I had the same concern. So I ran a basin full of water and I dropped that. Ethan and I stood there and we dropped it a bunch of times because I did not want that to happen. So the answer to your question is it should not unless you don't use heavy enough of eyes.
Is there a certain color combo that will be better for small or largemouth bass?
So I would
see
say
this in a
use
crayfish color bouncing
crayfish
it off the bottom.
colors, chartreuse,
Yeah. Black, white.
yeah, like whatever color, whatever you're just gonna match what they're feeding on, right? Like a crawdads or bait fish. Here, let me show you my box. So I'll tie these.
I can't delete them fast enough.
Grant goes, I like that shirt, Shawn. Does it come in men's sizes?
I got it. Your mom gave it to me, Grant. So you can see I will tie some in all white. I have kind of chartreuse. I have kind of blends with more flash. But you can see in this box there's a lot of orange, there's a lot of purple, there's a lot of chartreuse in this box, and I take this box with me if I'm going to Florida every time. This is all rabbit. You can use rabbit and kind of do the same thing, just like the Estaz and the Marabou. All right, so where are we at? All right, we're gonna put our flash. Oh, I dropped the flash that I had ready. So I'm going to get some more flash out of here. There we go. I was just kidding, Grant. Oh, I already put my flash on. What are you guys doing?
I don't know.
Jeez. All right, so it's time for Estads. Stretch that out. It's kind of not so good. Estaz. Is Britt Davenport on?
No, I have not seen her yet.
Britt Davenport snubbing me. How about that, Ben Cleveland? I can't believe it. We were supposed to be like this, Tommy.
They may be fishing.
Unbelievable. I can't even believe it. All right. Now here we go. This is our Mayan cichlid color. I have to twist this. This is horrible. Estaz. Alright. So, must be made in China. There we go. Alright. Just keep indexing that around and brush those fibers back every now and then. So, what I'll say about these is 99.9% of the time, and all the flies I tie, I always say that less fibers is better. But I haven't really found that to matter with these guys. To be quite honest, they're pretty hardy, and you're basically, when you're fishing for these things, you're trying to piss them off, and so if you pitch into them and they hit at it. On the next fly, after Tim does his announcement, I'll show you the actual fly I caught a 5.5 pound peacock on. I missed that same fish 3 times before I hooked him, because it was a she fish, a female fish. She was just smacking at the fly, trying to get her away from her nest. Then the 4th time I cast in there, and I was able to get her. So, and that's it. I mean, it's a super simple pattern. I mean, super like beginner stuff here, which, I mean, I'm not a great fly tire, so I'm just getting by over here. I went to public school,
Could be worse. Could be a Canadian school.
Oh, nah, I think Canada has good schools.
Just wait.
Don't bag on
I'm
Canada.
gonna get crucified here in about 30 seconds.
I love Canada. Canada's great. So there you go. That's the Mayan cichlid, and you can use purple. I brought purple also. I brought a Palmer chenille in Florida fire orange, which is all good. It's all good. So does anybody have any questions about these 2 guys before Tim comes to make his announcement? And so that's a Mayan and a Midas cichlid. If you want, we can post the recipe later. But that's it. Tim, you wanna?
I am ready.
All right, I need water anyway. There's no whiskey in this house. I need water.
Drank it all.
I was going through the steelhead bin, and I'm like, ooh, I found a bottle of whiskey. It didn't last very long.
Down straight out. Look at that, all those flies fell right off.
Yeah, they did. They fell right off. I'll get ready to stick them in the carpet. That one's in the carpet. Good Lord, you got that heater is cranking. I'm about ready to die over here. All right, guys.
So Terry Landry goes, Tyler picking on Canadians again, but you know what happened this week, hey? Sorry. And I'm like, wait a minute, does a Canadian have to say sorry at the end of his comment? Is that kind of like
Is that what they
ingrained
do?
in them,
Yeah.
Or what? Like,
Team Canada, here it comes. All right.
I shouldn't have got him started.
No, you shouldn't have. You really should not have.
Yeah, I like Sturridge.
Okay, so March Madness, we are down to the Final Four. Going into the Final Four, we have Jock Scott, Damian Welsh, who is a new tire that I don't believe was in the contest last year. Justin Lavelle is going in. Luffle, is that it? For Stephen Dallas, he was going against Stephen Dallas. Stephen chose to not send in a pattern, so he unfortunately was he was disqualified. He forfeited, yeah. So Justin is going into the Final Four, and then Terry Landry and Grant Alvis had an epic battle Saturday, and after 24 hours. They were in the 800s. They were in the low 800s.
It was 833 to 832. It was a little over 1% of the total votes is what separated them.
Well, he didn't win by 1 vote. He won by like 11.
11,
yeah.
1% of the votes.
Yeah. So 24 hours, 800 plus votes, and they were swapping the lead back and forth right up till the end. And we were actually steelhead fishing this week. It's funny, last week we were coming home from a demo and we pulled over on the side of the road for one of the games to see who won so we could take a screen grab of it right at 24 hours. This week we were steelhead fishing, so we came off the river and we're sitting on the riverbank staring at our phones when we should be steelhead fishing to see who's going to win this particular round. And like I said, they were swapping back and forth right up till the end. And when we took the screen grab at, what was it, 5:06, Terry was leading by 11 votes. So just awesome stuff, guys. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the hard work. I looked. I think that Terry Landry, Grant Alvis game right before we went live had over 65,000 impressions on it. So 65,000 people plus had seen it. So it's great stuff, guys. So thank you very much. Here is
We're up to 60. We're up to 70,000.
70,000 impressions. So it went up 5,000 impressions from the time we went live. So here is the Tub O categories. There you go. You can see them in there. So we've had 2 out of the food category, which were bait fish and crayfish. We've had 1 out of the fish species category, which was redfish. And then we had 1 out of the legends category, which last week was Blaine chocolate. So I don't know what's going to come out of here today. I'm mixing them up. I'm not looking. And I'm going to pick one.
We need a trout fly.
I would love to see a dry fly. I think that would be cool, but we'll see. All right, here it is. Here it comes. Oh, shit. Popper foam. So some type of popper that is made out of foam.
So it cannot be a deer hair.
It
popper.
cannot be a deer hair. Well, it has to have foam in the body is what this amounts to. So you've got to have some kind of foam in it. So a floating popper style fly with foam in the body.
This has not been a trout guy's competition.
No, it is not. If you're a trout guy, you're getting kind of shafted. But there you go, popper foam. So if you have any questions, let us know. But that's your category for next week. Flies are due in by 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to Casey at nor-vise.com. And we will only have, it's the final 4, so we will only have 2 brackets this week. So we will post both brackets. They will go up in and around 5 o'clock on Friday, and you will have 24 hours to vote. Voting will close 24 hours after they're posted. And in and around 5 o'clock on Saturday, we will know who will go against each other in the championship round to be the Norvise 2021 March Madness champion. So there's your category, popper foam, guys. If you have any questions, give me a shout. I'm going to hop out of here, and Shawn's going to tie his next pattern.
All right. So our next pattern, someone on the Norvise Tires page had asked what the pattern's called. I do not know what the pattern's called. I found this pattern on the internet or in a magazine, I can't remember, several years ago, and I started tying it. And so I use it for a couple things. I use it a lot for peacocks, but I also, what camera am I on?
You big cat.
You're on the big one.
So
Here,
I
I'll
also
do this
use,
one.
I have caught tarpon on this. All right, I have caught tarpon on this fly. And I tie it in orange to mimic that Midas. And this one, you can see it has that loop on it. I actually have this fly on a picture frame of one of my biggest. It was the first kind of big peacock I ever caught. I got a great photo of it. I was with a guy who was a photographer, and he took a great photo of it. And so basically, what it is, it's a strip foam head, right, with EP eyes, bulbous eyes, but you can use stick-on eyes also. It has S-Taz behind the head there with a little bit of Marabou, and this one has a rabbit tail and some kind of 2 different kinds of flash, but you get the general idea. The thing I like about this fly is when you strip it in, it wobbles from side to side, and so it makes a real kind of goofy, kind of side to side motion in the water, and it kind of really, I think, mimics that Midas cichlid. And the cool thing about this fly is we're gonna wrap lead around the shank, and so you can vary how heavy these are, and you can shove a rattle into that foam up there, and so we're gonna do that. And you can see this one. I tied this one for baby tarpon. You can see it has a SP 600 hook there. TMC SP, is that what it is, Tim? A TMC
It's a
600 SP.
600
TMC
point.
TMC
Yeah, down. Right
Sorry,
there,
yeah,
right there.
that's a TMC 600 SP. Like
That's a
you know,
serious hook.
that's a serious hook.
That's a serious
You get that in you, and the barb's not crushed. You're going to the hospital. It's a super sharp hook, and like I said, I tied this.
That is absolutely right.
Yeah, I tied this one for tarpon, but I just wanted to show it to you because I also tie it for peacock bass. You can see it's about half a finger length there on a size 2 hook. So I got my size 2. This is just a standard saltwater hook, and I don't really use bronze hooks at all. I'm kind of getting away from bronze hooks and just kind of using saltwater, high quality, sharp hooks, for everything. So the first thing we're going to do is, again, we're going to lay down our thread base again with that 210 denier or, whatever kind of heavier thread you're using. What did Mess call this? Going fast? 88 out the gate. We're going to go 88 out the gate. Put my little bump back there.
That's how fast I was driving home today.
Yeah.
So we've got our 88 out the gate there. And we're going to tie in our rabbit strip tail. So I got my rabbit strip. I'm just going to tear a little fur off right there in this thought. I like tying with rabbit, man. It'll go up your nose. Like it goes everywhere. That's a little long, actually. So I think I'm going to trim that back. Trim that back a little bit. There we go. I'll trim it back. I'll pull those hairs out. And what I do, I always kind of cut that. I'll cut that into that. The end kind of like a round, or I just kind of snip the points, the corners off to kind of round it a little bit, so it wraps around the little bump I made there. So I'll secure it on there, just like that. And then, if you use too long of a piece, which you like, as you can see on this one, this has a longer tail on it. You need to put a mono loop under here, or a straight piece of mono, and poke it through and burn the end, so that it doesn't foul around the shank of the hook. So I'm going to go ahead and secure that down. Lock my vise in. Secure that in there nice and tight. And I'll just throw a couple behind it just to keep her from fouling. You gotta see that. All right, there we go. No problem. I'll just kind of wet that. I didn't bring my clip. I normally have.
There's a clip on the vise right behind you.
Okay, if I need it, I'll grab it. There we go. All right. Now I'm gonna put some flash. I got 2 different kinds of flash here. I have a little bit of polar flash and some crystal flash in fluorescent orange. And I'll just put a little bit on each side. I just want it to have just a little bit of flash to it, and I'll vary my weight and I'll vary my flash, based on the conditions at the time. The nice thing about peacock bass is you don't have to get that technical. The only time it gets technical is if you're not catching fish. So then you'll start, where are they, and is my fly too big, is my fly too small? And so my approach to these is kind of different than most fish. So with most fish, I feel like if I'm not catching them, I need to slow down my presentation. With peacock bass, it's kind of quite the opposite. I speed up my presentation, forcing those fish to commit. So what happens after winter? I can tell you right now is the bass spawn in Florida, and so all those fish are spawning. And if you're on social media and you follow any Florida fishing sites, they're posting a lot of big fish right now, largemouths, peacocks, because all those fish they're on the beds. So, but one thing I do with these fish is if the bite's off, we'll actually speed up our presentation, make that retrieve more jerky, more motion, more action, right, to try and entice those strikes. So I trim that flash off just so it's about even, maybe just slightly past my my rabbit strip there. All right, now I'm gonna put. So this time you can see on this fly I used Marabou there, but I'm not going to use Marabou. as my next material. I use a different shade of rabbit is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna tie it in. I'm just gonna palmer it right around there. Man, I can't believe Britt Davenport didn't get on. Hurt my feelings. There we go. Kind of built. I got a little bump back there. I gotta throw some thread on here. Build it up a little bit. There we go. All right, now I'm just gonna palmer this around. Oh, look at that. Pulled too hard.
That's rabbit for you.
Yeah, this is kind of a...
You ever try like super gluing it when you tied it?
Yeah, I do. So normally I would be gluing. I would be putting glue almost after every single step in every one of these flies because, you know, Florida's like, in Florida, like if you're catching fish, you're catching fish, and if you're not, you're not. And so if you are, you want your flies to hold up because you don't want to have to stop and change flies. You really don't even want to have to stop and retie your leader. So I even use, when I'm fishing for peacocks, even if I'm only catching little ones, I'm using most likely like a straight piece of 20-pound fluoro or heavier. I'll just trim that down so I don't pull on it so much. Alright, so I'm just going to palmer this around. Just lay some of that in there. Where's Tim has Velcro here. Kind of brush it out. And you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot of this. Well, no. Ben Cleveland, was that 3 or 4 wraps? I know you were counting. You're like, the recipe calls for 4 wraps. I did 5. He did 5 wraps. What is he doing?
Just means it's custom.
No, you know what they do, those Atlantic salmon fly tires, when they're dressing the flies, if they don't follow the pattern exactly the way the designer did it, they call it freestyle. So all my fly tying is freestyle.
Yeah, what's a recipe?
Yeah, all my fly tying.
Recipes for these.
Yeah,
You want to know what hook I use?
What's a
Whatever
recipe?
one I find that I think will work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, is that one too long?
So
Eh,
now,
screw it.
so now, I'm gonna put some lead. This is 025 lead. You know, you should vary it. Just vary how much lead you want. You know, you want one on there. It doesn't. I tie several different so that I can get the different depths. This fly, if you don't put lead on it, because it does have a foam head, it'll kind of be right at the surface, which is good if you're kind of tarpon fishing and that's how they're feeding. But for the peacocks, I put lead on there, and like I said, normally I would, and I can do it for this one. You know, I'll put a little Gorilla Glue on here. All right, Tim doesn't like glue in his house or when he does shows. There's no glue allowed in anything because glue. He told me glue bottles break and stuff gets glued together.
Yeah.
And so I trust that.
I don't want
And
the
so,
glue bottle to blow up while we've got a shipping container going across the
Exactly.
That's happened.
Yeah, exactly. So and then I'll just kind of lock all that. And I should be doing this. Sorry, I should be 88 out of the gate on this. Just building that body up, making it nice and even.
Yeah, Ben. How many wraps was that?
How many wraps was that, Ben Cleveland? I thought I did bring rattles. So I got these little rattles here, and you can put a rattle. It doesn't matter. Peacock bass, they will respond. You know, a rattle's good, but you don't have to put a rattle. I'm more so now. Like I'm really into the kind of the sight fishing for them, and so I'm not doing as much of the blind cast. That still has glue on it, so that's good because that's.
7 1/4.
I'll put a little more glue. Put a little more glue on there. I don't know if this fly is really going to come out because that's the wrong size rattle. I needed the micro, but that's some mini. So we'll see. We'll see.
There's rattles right to your left.
That,
He's put like an ounce of super glue. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. At
Yeah.
this
yeah. So now we're at our foam head. I should have put that on the side. I'm just gonna wrap it over to the side, just like that. We're at foam head time, so you can see that's about right. I think I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna add just for contrast. I'm gonna add another color of rabbit. Now I think I'll put a little S-Taz on there. That's what we'll do. Just put a couple wraps of S-Taz around here to transition into the foam. So what am I doing? Here we go. I'm just gonna wrap it old school style, like if I was tying on another kind of ice. That's how you would wrap it. Like that. Let's tie that off. Yeah, that's good. And I got all that glue, so that's like gluing in there nice and tight. There we go. What's his name? My man Snyder. What's his first? Eric Snyder.
Eric.
He puts glue right on the thread. He doesn't even whip finish or anything. He just puts glue right on the thread.
I've seen that. I saw Sun Tao put Solres bone dry on, color it with a Sharpie black, put the bone dry on the thread, do the wraps, and then just hit it with the light and cut it off.
Yep.
And I saw Greg Senyo doing the same thing.
Yeah. So now what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna very carefully poke the front of my eye of the hook through the foam, and a lot of times it'll see how it creates that little flap. So what I'll do, I'll just trim that ever so carefully. Trim that with my $6 scissors, and then check this. You're about to see a serious maneuver here. I have my thread out the side, and I just wrap around there. Look at that. Boom. So easy. Look at that. That is so easy. A public school kid like me can do it. Look, it's off center. I don't like it. Look at that. You guys can't see it because of the angle. My foam is not on there in the center. So I'm going to cut a new piece of foam. Cut a new piece of foam. And then this time I'm going to be smart, and I'm going to use my bodkin, and I'm going to poke my bodkin through so I have my hook in the right spot. There, that's better. See that? I did that right that time. Poke my bodkin through there. Nice. Do a loose wrap first, and that way you can kind of, just like when you're when you're doing rubber legs, if you put too much tension on rubber legs, you can kind of never really get them right. So just put like one or two loose wraps on there, kind of get that foam. You can see that, kind of get that foam right where you want it, and then I'll just come in and I'll just cinch it down. I'll lay in some. Every wrap I'll just go a little tighter, and you can see that foam starting to flare. And you can see on this other fly that I did. I'll cover that with epoxy, but you can see it's nice and tight around there. And so do some of those, and now I'm gonna whip finish that. And I always use, even when I'm tying little flies, I use this big whip finisher. I think it's just kind of a personal preference, but honestly, I really don't tie much small stuff. I'm not much of a trout fisherman, so.
Yeah, I feel you. Size 8s and up.
Yeah. And then, so now what I do, this is kind of a critical step. Now what I do, I'm gonna wrap right behind the eye of that hook, and then when I put my epoxy and my glue on here, it's gonna kind of just lock everything together. So I'm just gonna come in here. I'm gonna just lay down a little bit of.
We are up to 166 shares.
Awesome. Just like that. Trying not to crowd the eye. 2, 3. Kind of crowded the eye, but that's okay. Give it nice and tight. And this whole head is going to be epoxied, so don't worry about only doing one whip finish kind of at the end. And that's, you can see that it's kind of flared out there. That's okay. I'll just kind of trim these kind of corners like
Now,
this.
will you use actual epoxy, or are you using a UV resin?
I use UV resin. I am still using CCG, which is no longer in business, but it was a really good product.
Yeah.
I
was the
am
one you
in
paid
process. I'm in process of switching to Loon, but I have not. I have not bought all the stuff yet. So,
Okay.
and these EPIs, these are for if you're ever tied to EP bait fish, that's what these eyes are. And these are my favorite eyes, and I'll show you why in a second here. I think I'm gonna go. I have two different sizes here. I have 6mm and 7.5mm, and this is kind of a bigger head on this one, so I'm gonna go with the bigger eyes. And these things come in a few different sizes. They're not really expensive, but I'll show you why I like them here in a second if I don't drop them on the floor. And so this is why I like them, especially for this fly. Is see, they have that post behind the eye, and so what I'll do is I'm gonna kind of fill this head in here with some glue. This is Gorilla Glue, because I'm a gorilla.
Hairspray.
What's that?
Hairspray.
And you can see that
You
eye's
didn't hear about that?
you can see that eye's too long, right? So what I'll do is now I know where to trim it off, and so I'll just cut that about halfway, and then that should drop right in flush. See that? Perfect. And if you don't feel like you have enough glue, you can use more. Try not to glue it to your finger. I do that. Oh, I do that a lot. Glue it to my finger. Oh yeah, perfect.
I think
And
that's
then
another reason
it gives
my
it
dad doesn't
kind of gives it a nice like hammerhead look, right? Like it's
Yeah.
really pretty cool. So, oh, look at that! I got the
One of them fell out on
no, I got the rattle there, so I have to trim this one a little.
Oh, yeah.
A little.
So does it lean to the side or anything like that with that rattle, or it all just kind of
No,
balances out?
it balances out.
Yeah. Okay.
And it wobbles. Like it's kind of what's a cool part of this fly is that it wobbles. When you're stripping it in. So yeah, I just kind of put some glue on. I always like to put some glue on a thread. Some glue. I just kind of glue everything because these things take a beating, man. I'm telling you, these fish are so aggressive. Like these flies, just they really do. They get hammered and catch. Whew, get attacked by the fibers there. They get it. These fish they hit so hard, like it's unimaginable almost. And these things, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So well, this isn't the best one I've ever tied for sure. You can tell I haven't been tying these a lot lately. Let's kind of glue everything together. Yep, that's about it. Kind of squeeze it together. If I got that rattle in there. So that's it. And I'll put a little glue up in the front, right? Glue there. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions about the flies, about fishing South Florida? I like that side of the fly better, so I'm going to leave it that way.
What kind of lines are you throwing?
I'm throwing 90% of the time I'm using a floating fly line with a 6-foot intermediate tip, even if I'm fishing topwater. That being said, I honestly don't fish topwater that much in Florida. When I'm fishing shallow, I mean, you will catch fish if you fish topwater, but I haven't had that much success. I've had limited success with poppers, just like anywhere you fish, right? When the conditions are right for it, you see it happening, you're gonna go to topwater.
Right. The trade-off is the reward of the topwater blow-up versus the numbers game.
Absolutely.
Can you go over what the eyes were again, and
Yeah.
maybe show them to the camera?
Yep. You can see I had that foam a little long. So I'm just kind of trying
The perfection is coming out.
No, just looked a little long. So, yeah. So these are Enrico Puglisi solid plastic eyes, and the reason that I like them is they have that post.
Yeah.
And so when you tie an EP bait fish, you'll cut that post off, and you'll use you're supposed to use like a cautery tool and kind of burn the fibers in the head of that fly, and then seat this eye with some glue into that socket that you make. I like it for this fly because I'll cut that post to length and put it inside the foam, and it just anchors that eye. And you guys are all fly tires and fly fishermen. You know that if you're fishing a fly and you're catching fish, a lot of them, you're going to lose the eyes. Unless you're fishing like chrome dumbbell eyes. You know, even I've seen, I mean, we go down and fish for stripers under the lights, and if you're using lead eyes and you don't have that head of that clouser completely epoxied, like those eyes are going to bust. You're going to hit that bulkhead a few times with that clouser, and those dumbbell eyes will just break right in half.
I remember the night where Ethan hit it with his hook and blew his hook up and didn't know why he wasn't hooking fish when they were almost ripping the rod out of his hand.
Yep.
Because he didn't have a hook on there anymore.
So yeah, so that's it, and you can see that's kind of this one's a little bigger, this one's a little smaller, or maybe you can't because we're on the wrong camera, but you can see this one's a little bigger.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, you can
Like
see the difference.
you can have different size. You want to have different sizes and colors, and so if you're getting into bigger fish, or what I do, I start kind of with the big fly down there, and then if I'm not doing as well, or they're kind of ignoring the fly a lot, I'll make my fly smaller, my strip faster, and the action more on the fly. That's what I'll do. Maybe lengthen the leader, but I've only had to do that a couple of times. So, and I do use an intermediate line, Tyler. I was asking about lines. I will use a clear intermediate line. I did so when I was down there between Thanksgiving and New Year's, 2020 into 2021. The fish were deep. You could see them, but they were deep, and so I was using an intermediate with a little bit longer 25-pound fluoro leader, and I was getting down to those fish, and we actually caught some big ones, so it was cool.
Okay.
So, anybody have any questions about it? Where to go, what to do in South Florida, approach, eat Cuban food. I will say, if you get the chance to go to Puerto Rico, there's some nice reservoirs in Puerto Rico that have a lot of big largemouth and a lot of big peacocks and Midas. I actually caught more Midas cichlids in Puerto Rico than I did ever caught. I only caught a couple in Florida. In Florida they seem to notoriously snub, they're hard to get to bite. In Puerto Rico, I had the opposite experience. I could see peacocks, and before I could get the fly in front of the peacock, a Midas cichlid would charge in and take the fly. And so I actually caught some nice, and all this cichlid family, the peacock bass actually isn't a bass. It's a cichlid. Like an Oscar or any other member of the cichlid family. This is the book that I would suggest if you're going to take a trip down there. This book's money. If you have specific questions about where to go, what to do, send me a message. We can talk. We can get on the phone up. I don't live down there, and none of these. Listen, there are no secrets in South Florida. There are no secret spots. There are places that you may not have access to, but there's so much water there. The hardest part, I think, for northern folks going down there, if you're going to be on your own and not using a guide, is kind of being brave enough to try some of these spots, because you think you're gonna get run off from there. But what I would say to that is you're not going to get a ticket unless it has a no trespassing sign, which you don't really see that much of, or I have seen signs that say no fishing, alligators present. I skip that spot, kind of go to the next, and this is like in the city, like in Kendall in South Miami. I did trailer a boat down there, put in on any canal and work at it. It's like anywhere. There's no gimme, so you're not going to bail them in the boat. You got to work at it, develop your technique and experiment and everything like that. And I did hire a guide on foot once and by boat once, and did very well on both of those. The foot guide I hired, I wanted to catch a wapote or jaguar bass, and he guided me right to those. I sight fished them, jigged the fly in front of it, and caught caught a couple. They fight really. All these cichlids, they fight really hard. So that's kind of the thing. That's why you got to do it. You got to get your $50 flight right now. Fly down there, stay in an Airbnb, rent a Ford Focus, and go catch these things, man. They're just crazy fun. So, any more questions?
Do you tie different colors of this fly for striper under the lights?
So, not really. I do. So that's a little bit of a loaded question, right? So, I will tie this Estes fly in all white and fish for stripers with it. But where I fish under the lights for stripers, we're using really small flies that look like silver sides and like rain bait and
A lot of race flies.
yeah. I mean, I honestly, a lot of the time, I'm throwing a chartreuse and white clouser, olive and white clouser, all white clouser, and if I'm not throwing those flies, I'm throwing stuff that looks like inch-long bait fish that's translucent for stripers under the lights. If you want to fish snook under the lights, you'd be surprised the flies are using. The flies are using for snook under the lights in most cases down there. These fish are highly, highly pressured. They're going to use like gorilla shank, like number 8, like I can't remember that, the hook, that's like a quadruple thickness, like a set of eyes with just dubbing and no tail that looks like a little popping shrimp for a 10-pound snook. Because if you use a big fly, they won't bite it because they're smart. They all have PhDs because they get a lot of pressure. So, any other questions?
I don't think I see any other questions.
Captain
So.
Justin Wynn, spelled like Nyan. You got that card, Tyler?
Yep, it's up there now.
He is a great friend and a great captain. I told him before I fished with him that I had my boat down there and that I was gonna probably fish where he took me, and he did. He had no problem with that. People fish there. Like I said, there's no secret spots. The flies that he carries on his boat were basically like all orange clouser. I think he gave Kyle an orange and white clouser. He basically had mostly all orange in his box for the areas that he fishes. I will, if I'm fishing, there are areas where you don't see the Midas cichlid. The farther you go north, the less Midas you see. So if you're fishing, say, in Fort Lauderdale, which is farther north, you will more use the Mayan cichlid mimicking fly, or and I'll use a lot. I'll use these small clousers here's a purple and orange, and that is a craft hair clouser, and I have had a lot of success on those. They have a lot of action. Very simple. All these flies are super simple to tie. But like I said, if anyone has any questions, I'll take you fishing down there. Like I won't pay your way, but if I'm down there and you want to fly down and go, if I have my boat down there or I don't, I'm hoping to have a boat down there at some point, like at my brother's house, until I can live down there to where, so that I can just drive down there and pick my boat up and go fishing. So that's all I got.
Who's tying next week?
Mama Miller, who's tying next week?
I am.
Oh.
I don't have that on my board.
Yep.
So who got the epoxy base? A hardwood and epoxy base?
We'll
okay.
We'll go through because she has to tally up all the shares, and then she'll does a random thing where she picks, and we'll announce it tomorrow.
So, but all right, I think that's it. No more questions. So, the March Madness category is you got to tie some kind of foam popper. So I don't know if you guys even use foam poppers in Canada, but good luck. So, all right, thank you, and we will be back with my dad tying next week.
Is it a foam popper or a foam or a popper?
It has to float on the surface, it has to pop, and it has to have foam in the body.
Okay.
There you go.
So for those who couldn't hear him because he's further away, it has to float on the surface, it has to have foam in it, and it has to pop. So what you do with that is what you do with that. So, Casey asked, "What are you tying next week, Tim?" Like he'll let you know on Saturday.
Yeah, I will bet it has something to do with steelhead.
Yeah, it'll probably be steelhead related because he's got steelhead on the brain after last weekend. So, but all right, thanks everybody.
Thanks,
We'll see
guys.
ya.
Appreciate you. Nor-vise Nation. Woo!